The rain outside sounded like the sky itself was crying for her. Aisha sat in the cramped clinic room, holding her little girl, Hania, against her chest. The child's tiny fingers were curled around her shirt, breaths shallow, heartbeat fragile like a bird trapped in a storm. Aisha, we cannot delay anymore. The doctor's voice was heavy, tired, like he had spoken these same hopeless words too many times. She needs the surgery soon. Weeks, maybe less. If we wait longer, he inhaled, hesitating. Her heart might not hold on. The words punched through her chest. Aisha swallowed hard, but her voice cracked. I don't have money, doctor. I already borrowed from everyone I know. I already sold. Her voice broke. Her wedding bangles, her tiny gold earrings, her mother's shawl, the old sewing machine, everything had been exchanged for medicine, tests, oxygen, hope that kept fading like breath on glass. The doctor looked at her with the kind of pity that made her feel naked and tiny. If you find a miracle, he whispered, bring it soon. Aisha nodded, though her soul was breaking apart piece by piece. She kissed Hania's forehead and stepped out into the rain. Her sandals soaked instantly, and cold water dripped from her hair. Karachi traffic roared around her, life rushing past like she didn't exist. But she couldn't break. Mothers don't get to break. She walked with trembling legs to the waiting area. A nurse, one who'd seen her struggle for months, approached quietly. Aisha, she whispered, glancing around as if sharing a secret. There is someone, a donor. He sometimes funds surgeries for children. Hope jolted through Aisha like electricity. Who? Where? Please tell me. The nurse scribbled a number on a scrap of paper and slid it into her hand. But, her voice dropped, he doesn't just give money. There are conditions sometimes. What kind? Aisha asked, desperate. You would have to meet him to know. Aisha didn't hesitate. Pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. Her little girl's heartbeat was fading. What was dignity against that? That evening, she stood inside a world she never knew existed. The lobby of Khan Corporation was marble and glass, shining like frozen lightning. Expensive perfume hung in the air. Women in fitted suits walked confidently. Men in tailored jackets spoke loudly about stocks, contracts, power. Aisha felt like a shadow in worn sandals and a faded shawl. The receptionist looked her up and down but made the call anyway. Minutes later, she was escorted to the top floor, to an office with glass walls and a view of the entire city, like the man who owned it ruled not just the building, but the world beneath it. He stood by the window when she entered. Tall, immaculate suit, sharp jaw, a face carved from cold ambition. Rayan Ali Khan, billionaire, CEO, a man who never needed anyone. When he turned, his eyes locked on hers, deep, unreadable, the kind that saw everything and revealed nothing. You're here for your daughter's surgery? He asked simply, like he already knew. Aisha nodded, clutching Hania tighter. Her voice trembled. She will die without it. I'll do anything. Please, help her. Rayan's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Not pity. Something colder, deeper. I can fund it, he said. All expenses. Best surgeons. Immediate admission. Her heart leapt, then froze when he continued. But in exchange, I need a wife. The room tilted. She stared at him, stunned. Wife. My mother is dying, he said quietly, jaw tight. Her last wish is to see me married. He sat, fingers steepled like a man who made decisions the world obeyed. I don't want emotional involvement. I don't want expectations after. I don't have time for romance or drama. Aisha felt small again, like dirt under the shoes of a king. You sign a real marriage contract, he continued. Stay as my wife until she passes or until 6 months end. After that, you'll be provided for, and free to go. Aisha's breath shook. The walls felt like they were closing in. You want me to lie to your mother? His gaze sharpened. You would be my legal wife. The lie is only an intention. Her knees felt weak. Marriage had once been a dream, then a cage, then a graveyard when her first husband abandoned her and their newborn baby. She had promised herself never again. I don't love you. The confession sounded pathetic. I don't want love, he replied. Just presence. A wife on paper. You get your child's life. I get my mother's peace. And afterward, you walk away. With enough money to rebuild your life. Aisha's heart twisted. So this was fate. Cruel, strange, unexpected. Marriage in exchange for her daughter's life. It felt wrong. It felt desperate. It felt like the only door God had left open. Do you expect, she whispered, unable to look up, as a husband? Ryan's eyes hardened, offended. No, you are not a transaction like that. I'm not that kind of man. Shame burned her cheeks. Silence stretched, heavy and trembling. I don't trust easily, she whispered. You won't need to, he said. Just endure, and save your child. A tear slid down her cheek. Her voice was barely breath. For Hania, I will do it. Ryan nodded slowly, a king sealing a decree. The marriage happened quietly. No laughter, no flowers, no family. Just a signature on paper and a prayer in her heart. The media found out anyway. Headlines exploded. Greater than billionaire marries poor single mother. Social media speculates motives. People whispered greed, opportunism, gold digger. Aisha didn't care. Hania's surgery date awaited. That was her truth. The mansion she moved into felt unreal. Chandeliers, silk rugs, rooms bigger than the entire house she used to live in. But it wasn't home. Not yet. Maybe never. Ryan was distant, polite, respectful, cold like marble polished for display. But sometimes she caught him looking at Hania, and his eyes softened, just for a heartbeat, as though something in her innocence reached the buried child inside him. His mother returned home weeks later, frail but smiling. She hugged Aisha like she had known her forever. My son finally chose happiness, she whispered. Aisha's guilt stabbed deeper. She wasn't his happiness. She was his bargain. But for Hania, she would endure every lie. She would bleed quietly. She would smile when her heart trembled. She would become a wife without love, without dreams, without a future, if it meant her daughter got one. Outside, the storm eased. But inside her soul, thunder roared. And neither she nor Ryan knew. This arrangement was about to change everything. Days blurred into weeks, and weeks into months. The contract said temporary, but life did not follow rules. Aisha tried to stay invisible in the Khan mansion. She woke early, helped the house staff, cooked simple meals for herself and Hania, and avoided every corner where Ryan walked with his commanding stride and frosted silence. Yet fate has strange ways of stitching hearts together. It began with small moments. Like the night she heard Hania coughing at 2 a.m. and rushed into her room, only to find Ryan already there, rocking her gently, face tired with worry. She was coughing, he stuttered awkwardly. I didn't want to wake you. Aisha froze. There was something raw in his eyes, something unguarded. Thank you, she whispered. He only nodded and walked out without a word, almost as if kindness frightened him more than the world did. A quiet change. Ryan's mother adored Aisha. She held her hand during evening prayers. She called her, Beta, with real warmth. She kissed Hania like she was her own blood. Aisha often felt she did not deserve such love, because she knew, deep down, she wasn't the wife everyone believed she was. This home has been silent for too long, the old woman whispered one evening. Your presence brought life back. Aisha lowered her gaze, guilt twisting inside. I only pray I can be worthy of this home. The older woman smiled softly. You already are. A mansion of secrets. Not everyone welcomed her. At dinners, relatives eyed her like a puzzle piece that didn't fit, a poor widow with nothing to offer but tragedy and a child. Whispers followed her like shadows. She trapped him. A charity case. She'll leave after taking her share. But Ryan never allowed disrespect. His silence was his armor, and strangely, hers too. Whenever someone questioned her presence, he answered with an icy stare that could freeze fire. Still, the distance between husband and wife was vast, a polite ocean neither dared to cross. Until the night it finally cracked. The night everything shifted. A storm raged outside, lightning slicing the sky. Hania slept peacefully after her medication. Aisha sat in the library with tea, trying to distract herself. Ryan entered, drenched from rain, shirt clinging to his strong frame. His jaw was tense, his eyes tired, like the storm outside lived inside him too. You're awake, he said quietly. I was reading. You look troubled. He poured himself a glass of water, hand slightly shaking. My mother's tests came today. The doctors say time is shortening. Aisha's breath caught, the woman who had shown her nothing but kindness, fading. I'm sorry, she whispered. He laughed bitterly, soft, broken. I built empires but couldn't buy time. Funny, isn't it? Aisha stood and walked closer, heart pounding. She hesitated, then placed her hand gently on his arm. You're doing everything a son can. More. He looked down at her hand, then at her, eyes filled with a pain so deep it could drown oceans. I didn't want to marry because I feared being vulnerable. Emotions are messy. They complicate life. And yet, here we are, she whispered. Yes. His voice was almost a confession. Bound by desperation, Aisha murmured, and learning how to be humans again. Something unspoken passed between them, fragile, trembling, real. Rayyan's hand lifted, almost brushing her cheek, but then he froze, withdrawing like he touched fire. Good night, Aisha, he whispered, voice strained. He walked away, but the air between them had changed. Walls had cracked, hearts had noticed. When fear meets love. Days later came Hania's emergency crisis. One moment she was laughing, trying to walk with her teddy bear, the next she collapsed in Aisha's arms, breath shallow, face pale. Aisha screamed. Rayyan came running, panic on his face as he carried the tiny girl to the car himself. Drive, Aisha cried. I am, he said hoarsely, accelerating through rain's slick streets. At the hospital, they paced side by side, fear binding them more than vows ever had. Aisha sobbed into her palms. Rayyan pressed a hand on her back, hesitant at first, then firm, grounding her. She will live, he whispered. I promised to save her. I will. She's all I have, she choked. He swallowed hard. She's not all you have anymore. Aisha looked up, stunned. Rayyan. Before she could speak more, the surgeon emerged. The surgery was successful. She's stable now. Relief crashed through them like a wave. Aisha collapsed in tears. Rayyan didn't hesitate. He pulled her into his arms. She didn't resist. She sobbed into his chest, and he held her like he had been waiting to do it for months. You're not alone, he murmured. Not anymore. The world outside blurred. In that moment, there was no mansion, no contract, no lies. Just two broken souls learning to breathe again. No longer pretending. Days after surgery, Hania giggled again, life returning to her eyes. Rayyan spent long hours by her bed, reading stories, feeding her soup awkwardly but lovingly. Aisha watched silently, heart swelling. One evening, he tucked Hania in and turned to her. You said you would leave after 6 months. Yes, she whispered. His jaw tightened. And if I don't want you to? Aisha froze. I thought emotion complicated your life. It does, he said softly. But living without you and Hania would destroy it. She gasped. I didn't plan this, he went on. I didn't expect feelings. Neither did she. Ask me again, she whispered, but not as a billionaire. As a man. He stepped forward, eyes warm, vulnerable. Aisha, he breathed, stay. Stay as my wife for real. Stay because I need you. Because I care for you. Because I love that little girl like she's my own. Because I am falling for you. Tears spilled from Aisha's eyes. And I, her voice shook, have been afraid to believe this could be real. He cupped her face gently, thumb brushing her tears. It is real, if you allow it to be. She leaned into his touch. Yes, she whispered, I will stay. He exhaled like he had been holding his breath for months. Then he pulled her into his arms, not as part of a deal, but as a man holding the woman he chose. Aisha rested her head on his chest, hearing the heartbeat she had once feared would never belong to her. The contract was over. The story had only begun. Epilogue. Months later, Hania ran through the garden laughing, heart healthy and strong. Rayyan chased her, laughing like a man who finally understood joy. Aisha stood by the doorway, watching the two pieces of her heart, one little, one grown, belong to each other. Rayyan lifted Hania high into the air, then turned, eyes finding Aisha's. Come here, Mrs. Khan. She walked toward him, sunlight warming her face, hope blooming inside her at last. Once she married to save a life. Now, she stayed to build one. A stranger became her miracle. A contract became a destiny. And love, quiet, patient, unexpected, became their